due to COVID. About 16,000 of them will be frontline workers that have been flown in that have been vaccinated and as a reward for their fantastic efforts over there, getting to watch the game. So about 10,000 tickets to be sold. They're going for up to $40,000, Peter.
Wow!
So it's an expensive Super Bowl to get into.
Is it the best Super Bowl quarterback matchup between, when you look at Brady and Mahomes, is this the best Super Bowl quarterback pairing in the history of the game?
It probably is. They're sort of calling it the GOAT versus the baby GOAT. Tom Brady is going to his 10th Super Bowl. It's a record for any player that's played in the NFL. He's won 6 of them. He's lost 3. Patrick Mahomes going to his 2nd consecutive Super Bowl. As you mentioned, he was the MVP last year, and he's probably the real future star of the game. So it could be a real passing of the torch, or does the old guy get it done? It's going to be really, really hard to tell. But Tom Brady is extraordinary to actually get to the Super Bowl as a quarterback with a different team. It's only happened, this will be the 4th time it's ever happened. A starting quarterback has played for a different team and made the Super Bowl, and only one other time that the player has actually won, and that was Peyton Manning a few years ago for the Broncos. So this would be an incredible sort of cap to his legacy as one of the greatest of all times in this sport.
You're probably growing up following Joe Montana, who was considered one of the elite quarterbacks. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, Joe Montana, he was the name everyone used to follow back in the 80s and 90s, and he won 4 Super Bowls, and that's the second most behind Brady. So no one thought everyone was going to get better than him or win more than him, but that has happened.
So how do you win? How do you get to 10? And how do you win 9 in the Or how do you win 4 for starters? But how do you get to 10 Super Bowls? This is quite an incredible story. And the big question is, will this be his last? Who knows?
Well, he wants to keep playing until he's 45 and possibly beyond that, which is it's baffling to think that someone can actually play at that high level. The quarterback position is probably the hardest position in any sport because you're basically a coach on the field. You've got the ability to change plays. You've got to have so much mental strength and also smarts when it comes to what you're actually going to do with the ball each time on the field. And you need to be a real leader. And so I suppose Tom Brady, a lot of people wondered, was it him or the coach that he played for previously at the Patriots was the key ingredient behind all this success? Now everyone's saying maybe it was Brady because after just 1 year leaving the New England Patriots, he's made it to the Super Bowl behind all this success. Now everyone's saying maybe it was Brady because after just 1 year leaving the New England Patriots, he's made it to the Super Bowl behind all this success. Now everyone's saying maybe it was Brady because after just 1 year leaving the New England Patriots, he's made it to the Super Bowl behind all this success.
And still a little intoxicated by all that we saw there, and already a new series. Just tells you how quickly the game goes by. But what a good series we have on hand. India versus England in India, 4 test matches, a World Test Championship at stake. There's a reason I think India start favourites though, because for a start India could either go in with 3 pacers, 2 spinners, or 3 spinners and 2 pacers, but the batting in the top 6 is just something that the opposition will look at and say, how do we get past this? I'm expecting a big series for Shubman Gill. So Shubman Gill, Rohit Sharma, Pujara, Kohli, Rahane and Rishabh Pant. Now, the balance of the side depends on what role Rishabh Pant has. He makes the side. There's no question about Rishabh Pant not making the side. Do India play Saha as well? And then leave space only for 4 bowlers? Or if India got so used to playing with 5 now in recent times that India will say, look, we haven't produced a turner for a long time. 2015 was the last time India played with raging turners at home. India played on really good surfaces thereafter, that we'll stay with Pant rather. We'll watch Pant grow and we'll play 5 bowlers. And that could mean that either Akshar Patel or Washington Sundar can play in at 7. But there's a very good chance that not a single bowler who played in Brisbane could actually play this test match. What does that tell you about the choices available to India? I hope that doesn't happen though, but we'll wait and see how that one goes. From England's point of view, they're coming after what seems like very good preparation against Sri Lanka. And it is. While the Sri Lankan bowling attack probably not quite as accomplished as India's in these conditions, but fairly similar. But there's something very peculiar about this England side. Yes, Joe Root has played a lot, but look at the other key players. The openers are coming in scarred. Johnny Bairstow played well. He's not available for the first 2 tests. Josh Butler, I thought, played really well. He goes back after 1 test match. Ben Stokes has been such a big part of English test cricket for the last 15-20 test matches. He didn't go to Sri Lanka. Jofra Archer didn't go to Sri Lanka. Sam Curran did well against India. He's not available for the first 2 test matches. So I don't know how much the effect of having played in Sri Lanka will actually have, what effect that will have on the series here. The one big factor though is Joe Root. And I have no doubt in my mind that much like India planned for Steve Smith, India's plans for Joe Root, the sweeper, are already ready. He got 50 to 55% of his runs playing the sweep shot, either the conventional sweep or the switch hit or the reverse sweep. India's plans will be very well formulated. I think India will play on good tracks here though, because when the tracks are good, India's spinners will bowl much better than England's spinners on it. You prepare turners, England spinners get an opportunity. And I don't know how many of India's batsmen have played on turners for such a long time. So I expect good tracks. If you remember back in 2016 as well, we played on really good tracks and India won 4-0, even though the first innings routinely produced 400 plus scores, but the game was moving very quickly because those were really good tracks. The return of Virat Kohli is a big factor. I mean, every time you looked at that Indian card and India did well, you said, right, Ajinkya Rahane 4, who's batting 5, Mayank Agarwal 5 one day. There was a bit of a hole there. Virat Kohli's return is going to be such a big part of this series. So what else? Why do I think India start favourites? Well, for a start, India haven't lost a game in India for a very long time. But if you just look player to player down that list, India just seem to have too much in the bank compared to England. Just one final point. One of the things that brought India together in Australia and made
things are very different from the outside compared to what happens inside the change room. The fact that Jinx mentioned what he mentioned is because camaraderie and the relationship is based on trust, and very well knowing that all of us are working towards only one goal, which is to make India win. And I would like to mention that he fulfilled his responsibility in Australia with flying colours, and it was amazing to see how he led the team towards victory, which has always been our goal. Between me and Jinx, we've always enjoyed batting with each other. It's quite evident on the field. We enjoy each other's company, and it's just a mutual respect bonding, which is more than on the cricket field. We do chat off it as well. We stay in touch, and yeah, it's just based on trust, and hence Jinx said what he said. Between me and him on the field, he's always been someone who's always had the capability and the space and the capacity to come and give in his inputs at different stages of the game. And we do have discussions on the field as to where the game is heading. I do go and discuss a lot of things with him to get more clarity, a different perspective, other than me focusing on the team plans. That's how we work together, and that is a massive reason for the success of the Indian cricket team in the test format. And that partnership, that camaraderie will continue to be the same as it has been. And the mindset for me, for him, for the whole team remains to take Indian cricket forward and lead the Indian cricket team towards victories, and it will continue in the same manner. Well, firstly, I don't think the two can be compared. To me, becoming a father has been and will remain the greatest moment in my life, in both our lives, and that is something that has to be experienced to understand what I'm saying. Secondly, the connection to the team does not go away in any situation, especially when you have given everything for the team, especially the test side for the last 6 years, on a daily basis, being motivated to take test cricket on top, take Indian cricket on top, and the whole group has put in so much effort, and you're connected invariably. And I was watching all the games even before. I mean, the Sydney test I clearly remember, the last test I clearly remember when Shardul and Washington were going through a partnership. I was watching it on my phone, just before we had to go in when the doctor called us. So that's how connected you are to the team, and that's how much you are looking forward to the guys doing well. And I was so happy and proud to see the whole team come back in the series like we did, and everyone deserves all the credit for what they did in Australia. I won't even say what happened, because it was purely out of determination, grit and belief that they achieved what they ended up achieving, and that is something that's going to remain in the hearts and minds of Indian cricket fans forever. Whether I was a part of it or not, to me, that doesn't matter as much as what it matters for the Indian cricket team and the whole country. So I was very proud, very happy for all the boys, but I came back for a moment that, as I said, is and will be the most special in our lives forever. Basically, जो हमारी टीम की आइडेंटिटी है वो हमने बहुत सालों से क्रिएट करी है. जब से 2014 में मैंने पहली बार टेस्ट कैप्टेंसी करी, और तब से हमने एक चीज़ डिसाइड करी थी कि जहां हमें चांस मिलेगा हम जीत के लिए जाएंगे, और ड्रॉ हमारा लास्ट ऑप्शन रहेगा जब हमारे पास जीतने का चांस नहीं बचता. तो हमने ज़रूर इस चीज़ पे परसिस्ट किया है, डे इन डे आउट, सीरीज बाय सीरीज, हर मैच में, हर सिचुएशन में, कि हम जीत कैसे सकते हैं, हम कहाँ से जीत निकाल सकते हैं. और उस पे डटे रहना, प्लान बनाना एक चीज़ है, लेकिन डटे रहने के लिए सबका कंट्रीब्यूशन बहुत ज़रूरी होता है. और क्रेडिट मैं पूरी टीम को भी देना चाहूँगा, क्योंकि सब लोगों ने इस आइडिया को समझा, उसको ऑन बोर्ड लिया और उसकी तरफ काम किया. और हमको उसके रिजल्ट्स जब दिखने शुरू हुए तो हमें समझ आ गया कि ये हमारा खेलने का तरीका है. हम अपने ओवरसीज अगर टूर्स देखें, जैसे मैंने इंग्लैंड टूर की बात करी, साउथ अफ्रीका टूर की बात करी, न्यूजीलैंड को छोड़कर, तो हम समझते हैं, हम हमेशा बहुत 1.5-2 साल तक हम बोलते रहे कि हमें पता है हम 40-45 मिनट में टेस्ट मैच हारे हैं, ना कि हमको डोमिनेट किया गया हर टेस्ट मैच में जब हम घर से दूर खेले. तो जब उसका रिजल्ट हमें पिछली ऑस्ट्रेलिया सीरीज और इस ऑस्ट्रेलिया सीरीज में दिखा, तो हमें और बिलीफ बढ़ा कि नहीं, हम सही रास्ते पे थे, और हमें एज ए टीम हमेशा पता था कि हम सही रास्ते पे जा रहे हैं. लेकिन जो ऑस्ट्रेलिया में हुआ, अभी स्पेशली यंगस्टर्स का ऐसे आके परफॉर्म करना मेरे हिसाब से ये सबसे ज़्यादा स्पेशल विन है हमारी टीम के लिए, क्योंकि इतना हमारे पास एक्सपीरियंस नहीं था और उन लोगों ने आके जो इम्पैक्ट परफॉर्मेंसेस दी हैं वो सिर्फ और सिर्फ माइंडसेट की वजह से हो सकता है। जो उन्होंने डिसाइड किया कि हम जाएंगे और हम जीतने के लिए खेलेंगे और हमें जीत मिली, रिगार्डलेस ऑफ आप किसके सामने खेल रहे हैं, उन्होंने कितने टेस्ट मैच खेले हैं, आपने कितने खेले हैं, वो सब पिक्चर से बाहर चला जाता है। सिर्फ आपका फोकस जीत पे रहता है और हमें उसका रिजल्ट देखने मिला। और जहां तक इस सीरीज का सवाल है, हम लोग इस सीरीज को बिल्कुल भी ये नहीं समझेंगे कि पिछली सीरीज से ज्यादा आसान होगी। जब आप जीतते हैं, आप टॉप टीम बनते हैं दुनिया में, तो आपके चैलेंजेस और बड़े होते जाते हैं और आपको अपनी गेम और ऊपर लेके जानी होती है। वही लॉन्जेविटी, वही कंसिस्टेंसी और सक्सेस का सीक्रेट है इस लेवल पे खेलने के लिए। तो हम लोग उतनी ही डिटर्मिनेशन, उतना ही बिलीफ, उतनी ही इंटेंसिटी से खेलेंगे जो हम ऑस्ट्रेलिया में खेले, और कोशिश करेंगे कि हमारे वही प्लान्स एग्जीक्यूट हों और उसी हम बिलीफ और डिटर्मिनेशन के साथ खेलें। लुक,
And to boot, I think his skill sets are better than everybody else on the trip. So for me, I'm picking my best team, and Moeen Ali gets in there. As I say, it's not being disrespectful to the other two. They had pretty good series. It's a brilliant thing. Hopefully behind closed doors they're working on a couple of little bits, which I know they will be, and I know they are. And then it's just a question of the balance of the team and how they marry up, whether they try and shoehorn three spinners into the side, because Moeen obviously bats very well, and change the batting order, or whether they just stick with the two spin options.
Bats, what did you make of you mentioned there a little bit about Bess and Leach? What did you make of their performance in Sri Lanka? Because when you look at it, and you know more than anybody else, there's no warm up games. You go into a tour when you're thinking as a spinner, I need probably 60, 80, 100 match overs under my belt before I hit that first test match. They've managed to get 80 and 100 overs each going into the India series, and you say the numbers were good, but just didn't look as though they had sort of any confidence with their bowling, or any sort of continuity from over to over, never mind spell to spell.
Yeah, I know from speaking with Jeetan Patel, he was big on the boys trying to get more square spin into their armoury, which is something we don't do in England a huge amount. You want the ball to be canted at 45 degrees, angling for the off spinner to sort of leg slip, for the left arm spinner towards slip. So square spin is very, very different. The ball travels a bit further, it's flatter, you don't have the same shape of loop and drop and what have you through the air. So I know that was something that they would have sort of squeezed in last minute.
try and exploit?
See, there aren't too many, I'll be very honest. And yes, in Australia, the decisive factor in this series, the defining contest will be English spinners bowling to Indian batsmen. I think fast bowlers will cancel each other out. Batting also, I've seen a lot of English batting in Sri Lanka, albeit the quality of bowling attack that Sri Lanka had was a bit inferior as compared to what they will counter in India. But then you've got Joe Root, who's in red hot form. I really like the look of Dan Lawrence. There is Johnny Bairstow. Of course, he's not available for the first test match. So that's you still will bat all right is what I feel, because these pitches are not going to be rank turners. Gone are the days when India used to prepare absolute dust bowls where you just could not bat. These will be fair surfaces. So batting also, in a sense, if England bats very well, will cancel each other out to a certain degree. I think how the English spinners are going to bowl to the Indian batsmen, Tom Bess and Jack Leach, will they be able to play the role that I'm not even going down that Graham Swan and Monty Panesar road in 2012. I'm just talking about control, some amount of discipline, where you don't allow the opposition to run away with the game. Because the moment that starts to happen, then Joe Root's hands will be tied. I think that will be the contest. That will define the series and perhaps decide the series in the end.
And Akash, you talk about Pujara there, manners. I think you say a man after your own heart batting on them wickets. I think as a former fast bowler, he'd break my heart thinking of bowling it. Pujara every single day of the Test series. I think he would break me eventually. But somebody who would break me as well if he could get in, and that's Virat Kohli. He comes back into the side after parental leave. But Akash, how well did Rahane do in Australia? He was fantastic. And will there be any sort of change in Kohli's demeanour when he comes back and leads the side, or will he just go back in and be the Virat Kohli that we all know and love?
I think there will be some amount of conversations in his own head. His outside demeanour, you will not really, the facade is not going to give you anything. He'll be the same Virat Kohli, same aggressive, in your face, up for a fight. But deep down, he would also know that people have started looking at me differently. People are now questioning my leadership skills. And therefore, what we've seen so far from Kohli, the batsman, he's been at the forefront of every rescue mission for Virat Kohli, the captain. So that's what I expect from Virat Kohli, the batsman, more than what Virat Kohli, the captain, is likely to do. And having said that, when you're leading this team in India, leading is not that difficult. You need to just go to your key bowlers, just make very few errors, as few as possible, and you'll be all right because you've got the personnel. So it's the Virat Kohli, the batsman. I'm very eager to watch a guy who hasn't played a lot of cricket recently, didn't score a single international century in 2020, one after about 12 odd years in his international career. 2021, will he be like keen and how to just set that right? So this series from Virat Kohli's bat perspective, I think is going to be crucial.
And who keeps wicket for India? Is it the specialist glove man, Saha, or if Rishabh Pant doesn't keep, is there, given his heroics in Australia, is there room to play him as a batsman?
See, it'd be a travesty if he doesn't keep. Rishabh Pant is the present and also the future of Indian cricket, and I'm not just talking about Test cricket. He's that kind of a player who should actually be drafted into all three sides as soon as possible. I see him playing, but I don't see him playing purely as a batsman, because what exactly has happened in the last 12 to 18 months is that he was the most favourite child of Indian cricket, and then he was made into a veritable pariah who nobody wanted to touch. So from someone who was the guy who was flown into England for the World Cup as a replacement player, a talisman character, X Factor and all of that, and couldn't find a place in any of the three formats is what he has seen. But now that the way he's batted in the last two Test matches, and also he's not that bad a keeper. It's not that he's a goalkeeper standing behind the stumps. He's all right. Of course, work in progress. But then that progress will happen only when he gets to work something. So that is where I feel place Rishabh Pant as a keeper. And unfortunately, no room for Ridhiman Saha at this point in time. I'd be very tempted to play five bowlers. It is almost impossible to now drop Washington Sundar with after what he's done in the first Test match. That was his debut. Scored runs, picked up wickets. The game was at Brisbane. Tamil Nadu is where he comes from. Chennai is the first venue for the first couple of Test matches. it actually augurs well for him to now play 5 bowlers.
Akash, you mentioned there Chennai, the first test match. What sort of surfaces are we going to have over the course of the series? Because India have picked Hardik Pandya, and so either going with a sort of a seam bowler and all-rounder, are they expecting a little bit more pierce in the wickets, relatively so from an Indian point of view? And does that bring England's sort of strength into play?
I think it won't be too far-fetched to believe that pitches are going to be a lot fairer in terms of pace, bounce, at least for the first test match at that very venue. So when you talk about Chennai, traditionally the pitch at Chepauk turns. Every pitch in India turns. Chennai turns a little more. But for the first test match, you would expect a bit more grass, the surface to be a little harder, so that by the time the second test match comes, you're not playing on a dust bowl. Because I think India has learned a very important lesson when Australia came to India last time around. India prepared a dust bowl at Pune, lost the test match in 2.5 days. And that is when they realized that let's not even the playing field by producing an absolute turner or a dust bowl. Let's go with a fair pitch, and if you are a better side, you should win. So I'm expecting decent surfaces. Of course, spin will play a key role, but don't rule out the faster bowlers. Last word on Hardik Pandya. I don't think he's been picked as a guy who will give you 15-20 overs a day, because he hasn't didn't bowl a single over in the IPL. Bowled about 4 or 8 overs on that tour to Australia in the limited over series. He wasn't picked for the test matches for that very reason, that he's not bowling. So now that he's picked, I don't think he's picked for bowling 15-20 overs and play as a batsman who can actually give you seam bowling option. He's picked up, he's been picked in the side as a pure batsman.
Akash, thanks so much for your time. We look forward to your company throughout what we all hope will be a brilliant series. Thank you.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure. I'm looking forward to the series as well.
Thanks, Akash. Just before we finish off then, Harmy, what is your predicted scoreline?
I think it pains me to say it, but I just don't see England with the way they're looking and mentally going into the series, resting and rotating. I can't see a positive outcome in this series, and I look at it and I don't think there'll be a draw in the series either. It's not going to rain, I don't think, in India, so it pains me to say I think England could lose 4-0.
Thanks, Harmy. For the record, I'm going 3-1. I think England will somehow find a way to sneak one. Maybe the pink ball test. You've been listening to the Cricket Collective on TalkSport 2. If you missed any of the show or wish to catch up, you can download the podcast from the following on feed, available on Apple Podcasts, Acast and Spotify. Remember, you can hear every ball of England's 4 tests, 5 T20s and 3 ODIs against India, live and exclusive here on TalkSport 2. It all gets underway this Friday at 3:45 a.m. Thanks for listening to the Cricket Collective on TalkSport 2.
On DAB+, online, via the TalkSport app and on your smart speaker.
that we're going to have 2 Indian umpires. The last time that happened was when Mr. Kapil Dev went past Sir Richard Hadley's record of test wickets in Ahmedabad as the teams line up for the national anthem.
And the pleasant, sunshiny scene in India. I hand over to Neil Manfield.
Thank you very much indeed to Mark Nicholas. And not only was their first Test match against England at this ground, it was 1952, 20 years later, their 24th match at the same venue. It took 24 matches, Harmy, for India to win a Test match. Morning.
Good morning, Manners. Yeah, I can't wait for this. Mark mentioned earlier in the build-up about excitement and hair stand up on the back of your neck, but once that anthem's done and you've belted it out, that for me was when the butterfly started. I knew that it was time to start, and especially on the first morning of a Test match, not knowing what's going to happen, trying to work out little gamesmanship, one up on each other. Obviously, as a bowler, you love to go out and bowl first, but on pitches like this, you'd like to see your batters bat for about 140 overs, and you've got something to bowl at and something to play with. But it's going to be interesting to see what happens here from an India point of view, because they've got 3 spinners in their side, they've got a brand new SG ball in hand, and the seamers are going to have it.
And it's Ishant Sharma with the first ball of the series. He's bowling to Rory Burns, and the first delivery is bang on line and length, full, and Burns just pushes it away, nudges it into the offside, and there's no run from the first delivery. Interesting that you brought up the subject of the SG ball, because it's been remodelled, apparently. I mean, we'll have to see. The evidence will be presented to us, and you'll be keeping a keen eye on it. But apparently it's harder and has a more pronounced seam.
Yeah, they're saying it's got the cork in the middle has gone a bit harder, and the seam's gone more kookaburra-like, where it's a little bit more pronounced as it would be a duke. And just off that very first ball, just a little bit of bounce there for Ishant Sharma on Rory Burns. Rory Burns played it beautifully, to be fair. Got in behind it and blocked it right down.
3 slips in a gully. Here's Ishant Sharma to Burns, flicks it away for the first run down towards fine leg. Picked up and fielded in the deep by Shahbaz Nadeem, who's bowled his left arm spin, 3rd choice. Burns is off the mark then. First run, and England are underway. England won the toss, decided to bat first. No great surprise there. Dom Sibley and Rory Burns having a chat in the middle now. Just had the first couple of deliveries. Ishant Sharma's only 32. How about that? Feels like he's been around for, I was going to say, at least a decade, and he has been around for a decade.
He's been around a while, yeah, man. He's not far off 300 Test wickets, so for a seamer out in India, predominantly playing in India, that's a phenomenal achievement.
It certainly is, and an average of he averages 32. It's his age as well, as you said, almost 300 wickets. Fabulous effort. Now then, the right-handed Dom Sibley. He's got 1 slip less. Got a leg gully. No surprise there. 2 slips, a gully, backward point, leg gully. He's got a mid-wicket as well. Sharma in full outside the off stump, and it's left alone by Dom Sibley. So it's funny how reputations stick, don't they? With Dom Sibley, you get caught leg gully once, and then every team you play against for the next 5 years puts a leg gully in.
Yeah, sometimes I just wonder if you're a batsman to get caught early in a position where you're quite strong.
Yeah, so they're good at scoring.
They can start bowling at you, but I actually think he's susceptible a little bit finer than that. More leg slip than leg gully. But it is a good field position for Sharma, because he just pushes it across the batsman when he loses his wrist.
Here's Ishant once again up to the crease now, over the wicket bowls, a little wide outside the off stump, and it's left alone by Dom Sibley. I'm interested that he's got mid on and mid off, but also a mid wicket. So it's that flick, isn't it, that India are trying to get Sibley playing. You're just flicking up in the air on the onside. It's not quite unusual to have a mid-wicket in the first over of a test.
No, I think what they're trying to do, and what Ishant's looking as though he's doing, he's forced that last 2 balls to be well outside off stump, because that's where obviously India want to bowl at him. He's got protection on the leg side because he thinks that's where Sibley's quite strong. He's probably looking at Sibley to say, right, play me a bit squarer. If you play me a bit squarer, it brings leg slip or leg gully into play.
Here is Ishant Sharma once again. He goes full and straight on off stump, and Sibley pushes it up towards mid-on the onside. Burns off the mark with a single. Dom Sibley has faced 3 deliveries. Reminder that England won the toss and chose to bat first here at the M.A. Chidambaram Stadium in Chennai, and decided to have a bat first. No crowd, no spectators in this wonderful near 50,000 seat stadium, but there will be up to 25% allowed in for the second test match. Ishant Sharma about to complete the first over. There really is an eeriness about this enormous stadium, hardly anybody in it. Here is Ishant once again, and Dom Sibley comes forward and pushes it gently up towards mid-on. It's gone straight to the fielder. So tidy enough start from Ishant Sharma, fielded by Captain Virat Kohli at mid-on. There'll be some nerves, butterflies in the stomachs of Rory Burns and Dom Sibley. Particularly Burns, I was thinking, even though he's the senior man, he's the older player, but his life's been changed quite a bit in recent months. Become a father and hasn't played since August.
No, he hasn't. He's probably been in the nets in the tent at the Oval, trying to keep warm, woolly hat on, big jumper on, bats throwing balls at him for the last 4 or 5 weeks, getting himself ready for what the challenge is going to be in India. But the feeling of becoming a father for the first time, I'm sure he's just bouncing on air. He'll be, the emotions are brilliant when that happens, and fingers crossed that he can get off to a good start here, because I still think there's a few question marks on selection for Rory Burns. He's played 21 test matches. He's got 200s. He's still to be averaging 32. I think it's still that light on moment, and that big 100 hopefully is round the corner for him.
Right, it's going to be Jasprit Bumrah with the second over, and it's before he bowls his first delivery. Actually, let him bowl his first delivery, because he's running up now. Just the 2 slips and the gully in for Jasprit Bumrah to Rory Burns. Down the leg side, and he's glanced it, and he's got some bat on it too. It didn't quite carry to Rishabh Pant, who dived away to his right, got a glove to it, but only on the half volley. And Burns will pick up a second run. And a little behind time, I'm sorry, little tardy. It's good morning to Jared Kimber. Hang on, I think a bit of mic problems there. Try again, Jared.
I'm just over here.
Oh, there we go.
I was going to say that was his first ball in a test match in India, in his 18th test.
It's extraordinary.
17 tests at home. Would have been nice to get a strangle down the leg side to begin in India.
There must have been a few Pakistan bowlers and cricketers who played 70 or 80 test matches without playing one at home. Rishabh Pant just got that one right on the end of the finger, and he's just a little bit discomforted for the moment. Here's Jasprit Bumrah once again up to the crease, short run up, stuttering as he always does, and that one is left alone outside the off stump. England 2 without loss, winning the toss, batting first. And if you haven't heard, the team is Rory Burns, Dom Sibley, Darren Lawrence at 3, Joe Root, Ben Stokes, Ollie Pope straight back into the team, having proved his fitness, Josh Butler, Dom Bess, Jofra Archer, Jack Leach and Jimmy Anderson. So no Stuart Broad, no Moeen Ali. Here is Bumrah once again. That one again, once more, left alone outside the off stump by Dom Sibley, who's yet to get off the mark. 6 balls faced. England 2 without loss.
Intrigued. Jimmy Anderson might be sitting there wondering, be thinking, right, see what this SG ball's like. Is it going to swing? Well, we've got 2 seamers who don't swing it. Aim Bumrah and Sharma, they both take the ball back into the batsman, and if anything, they hold it up off the seam more than any sort of shape or way. So we're probably not going to get any indication if this new ball, this SG new ball, does swing in these conditions.
Bumrah once again up to the crease now. Again, it's left alone and taken behind by Rishabh Pant. The ball, he's angling it into Dom Sibley, isn't he? And it just seems like Pant's taking it down the leg side, even though it's passing past the off stump. It looks like it's swinging off the pitch, almost.
I think that must be the seam. The seam is probably a little bit more pronounced than what a Duke ball is, but a Kookaburra ball is. And they're saying it's like razor sharp. So if there is any sort of moisture in the wicket, that's probably it. It's probably hitting the seam and nipping back.
Here is Bumrah once more. That's full. Almost drivable, you'd have to say. It's almost a half volley, but Sibley is defending it, pushing it gently up towards mid-off once again, and there's no run.
And this is what Bumrah and Sharma will be looking for, especially against Sibley. The ball that is probably at fourth and a half, fifth stump, just outside, and just nipping back, getting him through the gear, because Sibley does have a tendency to play bring his bat down from second slip and bring across himself and leave a gear between bat and pad.
Here is Bumrah once again, and back of a length, Sibley back and across, onto off stump, pushes it up to Washington Sundar. at mid-wicket, and there's no run. The over comes to an end, so one each from Ishant Sharma and Jasprit Bumrah. We heard Jared Kimber talking about Jasprit Bumrah has just bowled his first over on Indian soil. There's another first. The groundsman, V. Ramesh Kumar, just 42 years old. This is the first pitch he has prepared, not only for a test match, but for a first-class game. Extraordinary story. He's a very successful businessman, just 42 years old. He's got a couple of... he's a businessman, basically. He runs a couple of apparel companies. Jared, you're looking like you... Are you going to finish the story?
Are we talking about the groundsman?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was trying to fix my mic. But
I thought you were... That's why I thought you picked it up in order to say something.
No. The groundsman story is incredible, though, isn't it? And it'd be very interesting to see if that changes how groundsmen are hired in the future.
Here's Ishant Sharma for his second over. Oh, he's left alone by Burns, not too far away from the off stump.
Because essentially what they're doing is they're saying that this is a management job. That what we need to do is make sure that there are key things that we are delivering, whereas all the groundsmen we've ever met are sort of grumpy old guys who wake up at 4 a.m. and do things. They're not saying that those skills aren't useful.
Men of the earth. They're
not saying those skills aren't useful, but what they're saying is that management, to get it ready on time and to have all the people involved, is the most important thing. But it could go horribly wrong if this test is over in a day and a half. We may never have another groundsman who comes from a business background ever again.
So you may wonder how he got into groundsmaning, but he started his own academy. He decided that he was a very successful businessman with over 700 employees. Here's Ishant Sharma once again. Rory Burns pushes it defensively up towards mid-off, and Ishant does his own fielding. So he started an academy for underprivileged kids. He wanted to get them involved, to give them a chance, and then he bought some ground, and then realised that he needed someone to prepare pitches. And he apparently couldn't find anybody and couldn't find the right people, so he thought he'd do it himself. He went to the Tamil Nadu Cricket Association Groundsman's annual course.
Not sure that's the official name, but yes, that's what he did.
It's just an amazing story. And then, he applied his business mind to the art and science of groundsmaning, preparing pitches. Here's Ishant Sharma once again. Rory Burns pushes it away up wide of mid-on, and they turn for a second. They might even come back for a third. It might even go all the way for four. No, it does just hauled back by Washington Sundar. There's a comfortable three. Longest part of the ground out towards wide, long on, deep mid-wicket. And Rory Burns does pick up three, and he moves on to five.
Good shot there by Rory Burns, and a good confidence booster as well. It didn't go for four. As a batsman, you want to see boundary. You feel confidence by getting boundaries. But his head's in a good position here. His weight's coming forward. Let the ball come to him, and he used the pace of the ball, the angle that Ishant Sharma gave him, and he just glided it through sort of wide mid-wicket, which will give Rory Burns a lot of confidence. Bear in mind, this kid hasn't batted in the middle since August.
Very, very early days. 2.5 overs gone, but I must say he's looking very solid. Settled as much as he can do in 2.5 overs. Here is Ishant Sharma once again outside the off stump, and once more it's left alone, leaving the ball as well as Dom Sibley does. It's one of his great strengths. Very frustrating for a new ball bowler who wants to make the batsman play at as many as possible.
I think Sibley will be happy the way he's shaped up. Again, another one like Burns there. He's shaped up well. His head's above off stump. He's let the ball come to him. He's let the ball go through. I think India are missing a trick here. They bowled every ball well outside of Dom Sibley's off stump. You're more or less giving him a sighter to get in.
And he is perfectly happy, as you said, to leave the ball and just keep leaving it. He'll leave it the whole session if you give him a chance to. Here's Ishant once more. Sibley does play at this one. He comes forward and steers it straight to Jasprit Bumrah, who's fielding at backward point. That's an unusual sight, Jasprit Bumrah at backward point, but there he is. But just to conclude on the groundsman story, it's really interesting. So
he's a delegator, basically.
Well, I suppose a grounds manager. I think probably
Yeah, well, I mean, they saw his skill when he came into this course, and they decided he was so good that he was the best candidate for them to come in. But I think he has a lot of people working for him, and he gets a lot of information. But he certainly, has a skill as a groundsman as well.
Here is Ishant once more. That's very full, and he pushes it up towards mid-off. They run through for a single as Ravichandran Ashwin does the tidying up. So it's a business and science approach to ground. I mean, as Jared's saying, that traditionally, historically, the groundsman is the guy who's been there for
worked his way up
25 years, 30 years. Yeah, that's right, and he knows every blade of grass and just has a feeling, and there's a way that it's always been done, and you water it this much 2 days before, and there's a sort of tradition. So this is a slightly more scientific approach.
Bizarre, they give him a test pitch to be his first one on the ground. It's like, right, you've done well, captain in the second team. Go captain England.
Yeah, that's right. Well, Gareth Batty's joined us. He's going to be on for the next half an hour. Morning, Bats.
A very good morning to you both, and to everybody listening.
It's a beautiful sunny day in Chennai, 30 degrees. Nice fresh breeze as well. Here's Jasprit Bumrah, fourth over of the innings, and it's pushed away for a single by Sibley towards backward point. And they scamper through for a single, and Dom Sibley moves up to 2. Rory Burns has 5. First impressions for the first 15 minutes, Bats?
Looks a good surface. Very nice toss to win at the start of a series for Joe Root. We haven't seen too much from this new SG ball. We haven't seen much lateral movement. We've seen a pretty consistent bounce. We've seen an amount of patience of how the Indians have bowled. They've not bowled too straight. They've tried to stack it outside the eye line of both batsmen, testing their patience on leaving the ball. But sat here now, it's a big shout early doors, but it looks a very, very fine batting surface at the minute.
I concur, Bats. It is early days, isn't it? I mean, we can see. Here's Bumrah again around the wicket to Rory Burns, left alone again, and it's taken behind by Rishabh Pant. But I think 4 overs is fair enough to just. I mean, we haven't seen any lateral movement at all, have we?
Yeah, I mean, Steve touched on it. It's a massive series, and both sets of players, whether you're on playing your 100th Test match like Joe Root or making debuts that not that anybody is, it's just. There are nerves kicking around, so you go to the sort of safety blanket, as it were, of making sure the batter's not going to put you under pressure by scoring too many runs, and you sort of ease your way into it from a bowling perspective.
England 7 without loss. Burns turns the next one away behind square on the leg side, sets off for a single, and scampers back for the second as well. Fielded by Shahbaz Nadeem, the left-arm spinner, down at long leg. Rishabh Pant takes it. I think Pant's really still hurting that finger. I think it's the middle finger on his right hand, that delivery in the very first over, first ball of the second over rather, from Jasprit Bumrah, that he dived and he just took it on the end of the finger, and every now and then he just takes the glove off and just gives it a squeeze and a rub. But Burns with another couple moves on to 7. Dom Sibley has 2. England 9 without loss, winning the toss, batting first at the MA Chidambaram Stadium in Chennai. Here's Bumrah once more. Burns tucks it away off his pads out towards mid-wicket, and there's no run. And for those of you who haven't heard the England team, I'll get Gareth Batty's comments on it in a moment. Burns and Sibley, Lawrence at 3, Dan Lawrence, Joe Root, Ben Stokes, Ollie Pope, Joss Buttler, Dom Best, Jofra Archer, Jack Leach and Jimmy Anderson. Is that what you were expecting, Bats?
I think it's what we were expecting. I think certainly I was hoping that they'd squeeze Moeen somehow, Moeen Ali, but a difficult thing to do with the consistency of selection that England are trying to get.
2 slips in a gully. Here's Bumrah once again, left alone by Burns outside the off stump. Did the thought occur to you, given where Moeen Ali batted 4 years ago on the tour to India, when Zach Crawley was injured, did you just wonder whether Moeen Ali might have been squeezed in at 3?
Yeah, I did think that. He'd been pushed in, and they were wanting to use his batting skills as well as his bowling skills. Quite often, one of his skill sets as an all-rounder gets forgotten a little bit, and Moeen finds himself batting at 7 and 8 quite a lot. But obviously, in first-class cricket, he bats right up the order at 3 and 4. So he can certainly do it, and his numbers stack up that way.
Here's Bumrah once again, just wide enough for Burns to leave alone outside the off stump, and he remains on 7. Dom Sibley has 2.
England 9 without loss after 4 overs. You continue with that thought, Bats, and I'm going to make way for Andrew McKenna for the next 20 minutes.
Yeah, but I think England, certainly over a period of time now, have had really consistent messages to players, and they're picking them to perform certain roles. Lawrence played very well in Sri Lanka, so the opportunity to get him up at 3, a position where for a period of time it's been who's going to bat at 3. We want Root in there, we want somebody else in there. It's an opportunity for a young man to stake his claim, which is brilliant for him. Disappointed for Moeen Ali, but you know, are you going to use 6 bowlers in your lineup anyway? But it's an interesting one.
Morning, Bats. Morning, everybody. It's TalkSport and TalkSport 2 bringing you the cricket. Every ball of the series is exclusively live on TalkSport 2, but we're also on TalkSport at the moment as well, as England win the toss and bat 9 without loss after 4, and Ishant Sharma is coming in for the first ball of the 5th over, and it's dead straight, and Dom Sibley is pushing forward, and there is no run. Just that one half chance so far this morning, with Rory Burns glancing one first ball from Jasprit Bumrah down the leg side. Rishabh Pant getting his fingertips on it, as Manas has mentioned, but not getting close enough to catch it. Now, India for Sibley have got a very straight mid-on. And when I say straight, he's so straight, he's between the non-striker and the umpire. He's only just off the cut strip. There's a shortish mid-wicket and a deep mid-wicket as well. So they're looking for the flick off the toes here. Ishant is in. It's a ball that could be flicked off the toes, but Sibley is actually pushing it up to a wide-ish mid-on. No run. Gareth Batty, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, he's bowled very full this morning to Sibley as Sharman, and he's generally bowled it more on the sort of 4th off stump line, so not targeting the stumps, if anything trying to shape the ball away. Traditionally he's been a bowler that's fallen away in his action and targeted the stumps, so he's swung it in more, and they started with the leg slip, but now they've got more of an umbrella field on the leg side, a very straight man for a full ball that you might punch down the ground, then a clip man where you'd see in the box man for an off spinner, and then a man splitting them a little bit deeper, almost tempting Sibley to hit the